On behalf of the Alberta Regional Professional Development Consortium, I would like to extend our deepest appreciation and respect to our Elder Advisory Circle, who helped guide this project and bring it to fruition. Thank you to Elders Tina Fox, Betty Letendre, and Eulalia Running Rabbit, who's with us today. Your dedication to education is a tremendous act of reconciliation. We can only hope to bring as much awareness and truth as possible to this day. I would also like to thank our friend and colleague, Donna Ross, for her huge contribution to this project and for her words about this significant day. Orange Shirt Day and the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is a day that remembers the thousands of Indigenous children who attended residential schools and the children who did not make it home. As part of the learning of the impact of these schools, Orange Shirt Day and beyond guides an approach to share the true history with students, educators, and the school communities. It is a time of remembrance and reflection about the impact it continues to have on many Indigenous people. Our Orange Shirt Day and beyond resources honor, respect, and foster ways to learn about the legacies of residential schools, but also commemorate Indigenous ways of knowing, doing, relating, and being by promoting positive stories of hope and resiliency. We have with us today two panelists who will be here to support us, answer your questions as we explore sport and healing. And Eulalia Running Rabbit has joined us today. She is an elder from Strathmore, Alberta region. And Eulalia, some of you may recognize, was the star of our production last year, the New Blood Tribe, the New Blood video that we shared last year with all the resources. And we have had the honor and privilege to continue to work with Eulalia. And Eulalia, I'm just going to pass the mic over to you for you to have a chance to say hello and share a few words.
First of all, I would like to still say hello to everyone that's there, and thanks for coming out on this day. My name is Eulalia Running Rabbit, and I am from the Siksika Nation. So with that, yes, I am the mother to the student that went to residential school in the show of New Blood. And I'm very fortunate I get to meet Peter Gabriel on October 5th. Wow. He invited me and Deanna to come out and meet him. So that's a plus. You know, hearing that song, that honor song that was played, well, it brought tears to my eyes. I thought of all the children, not only the Native children, but all the children in the world. I think all children should be honored for who they are and what they are, like what they do for a living. It's really sad today that with this opium crisis we have, and it really did affect our children, like children on each reserve, everywhere. So with that, I my deepest respect for all children. Today is the day of where we celebrate the Every Child Matters. I guess if there's any questions you can ask, and I'm more than willing to answer.
And Jason, I don't know if you'd like to say a word or two. Jason Big Charles is joining us from the north.
Thank you, Madeline and Eulalia. Tansaka kyo papastim si kasun munyo si kasut Jason Big Charles, East Prairie Métis Settlement of Chania. So my name is White Horse. My colonized name is Jason Big Charles, and I'm joining you today from the East Prairie Métis Settlement, which lies in Treaty 8 territory, welcome back to those who joined us yesterday. Happy to have you back today. For those joining us, very honored to be asked back today to help support as we walk together toward reconciliation. Very honored to be here to support Madeline and especially our knowledge keeper, Eulalia. So, kinanaskom tinawaw, kakyaw. I'm very grateful to you all.
Thank you, Jason. Today we're going to start with a video clip about the white buffalo. And I'm wondering if Eulalia or Jason, one of you wants to just speak about the importance of the white buffalo. Brief little introduction. We do have the video.
The white buffalo, it's a special animal culturally, and it tells, when a white buffalo is born, it's supposed to relate to the future, to the indigenous communities of America. I think it's for the Americans, the white buffalo, especially in the southern states. They have more stories and honor for the white buffalo. So we, Siksika, we don't really know about it. Something we don't know. Everything in knowledge was passed down, and the white buffalo was not given to us. The white buffalo is a sacred animal that I'm aware of. What I wrote down here, I just jotted everything down really quick of what I know. So when the white buffalo is born, that means it's a good omen and a good future ahead. And for we indigenous people, the white buffalo also signifies receives with joy for the people and in abundance and change with the indigenous people and among the southern. And the white buffalo is very sacred. So I think 1 in a million, it's a 1 in a million rare occurrences. It highlights stories centered on 3 themes: meeting the herd and meeting the people and telling the story. In essence, it is a celebration of all things. Stories often have a deep meaning and can be passed on from generation to generation. In one story, the legend of the white buffalo woman is a very sacred story of the American indigenous. Many American indigenous, such as the Sioux, Cherokee, Navajo, Lakota, and Dakota, celebrate the white buffalo calf in their prayers. So as the story goes, the birth of the white buffalo calf goes a long ways from long ago. So that's what I know of the white buffalo. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Jason, if you want to add anything before the video.
Thank you, Madeline and Eulalia. Of course, as Nihiawak, as Indigenous people, we all have different teachings and different histories that as the teachings are passed down, and as well, both Eulalia and I, as academics, we have research and such as well that, and it's neat to see the research coincide with the traditional teachings and stories we're given. One of the teachings that I was given about the white buffalo was that it originated from a prophecy that actually came through from Lakota medicine man in the 1800s by the name of Black Elk. And the stories we in Cree country were given was that Black Elk had a near-death experience as a child. And during that near-death experience, he was given insight into a lot of the future of of our first peoples. And in one of those, the birth of a white buffalo calf was going to signify the resurgence or rebirth of the indigenous nation, and it's called the seventh generation rebirth, where the seventh generation will start to reclaim our languages, our cultural practices, our ceremonies. So, of course, nations since the early 1800s and Black Elk's vision into what's to come, we've been preparing for the birth of the white buffalo calf. And in the past years, there's actually been 3 white buffalo calves that have been born. So that in itself is a tremendous sign to Indigenous people that this is a good time for Indigenous, according to Black Elk, that we are in the 7th generation now. And I think activities like today are maybe proof of that, where we are joining together in reconciliation and starting to reclaim our language, our culture, our traditions. So those were the teachings I was given, and they sound very much in line with Eulalia's teachings as well about the rebirth of the Indigenous nation. Shamaga.
Thank you, Jason. 2 wonderful stories. And I agree with you. I think what we see happening right now is so positive, and I'm so excited about the work that we're doing right now to celebrate culture, sport, music, dance as ways to reconciliation. So thank you. And on that note, Alexandra, our crew went out and met with someone, and we have a nice video to share with you regarding the white buffalo.
A few years ago, we had a lot of tragedies in the First Nation community. A lot of the young men chose suicide, couldn't deal with life anymore. And one of them was a close relative, my auntie's only son. I went home to pay my respect. And when I was home, I wanted to stay back and help feed the people after. And my brother insisted that I go visit the graves of the people that have left. You know, and our graveyards are full. And he asked me, "Sister, what could we do to help our people?" You know, being the oldest of 3 boys, I had to do some quick thinking over the years, and I said, "It's time to bring the white buffalo back." And he looks at me and says, "Where do you find the white buffalo?" And I smiled and I was like, "I don't know, but I will ask Dogie. I will let Dogie know that he will help us find a white buffalo." You know, we needed a sign of hope, and I felt the buffalo would give that sign.
So it was January 2020, and called all over, mainly the United States, because that was the only place I thought there would be the white bison where I could locate them. Lo and behold, I did reach out and I talked to some people down in South Dakota, North Dakota, Missouri, Montana, and they all led me back to Canada. So there's a guy that moved from the United States into Manitoba. And I says, okay, well, that search is going to be shorter. It'll help me a lot easier because now we're in Canada. So I did call into Manitoba asking who owns these white bison. So I was led to a town. I forgot the name of the town in Manitoba. I talked to a reporter there and he says, well, actually the fellow that was here moved to Alberta. So my search was getting shorter. So I Again, I talked to the Bison Association, and they led me to a reporter in Red Deer. And that reporter gave me a number. Says, call this guy. So I called him, and there's a gentleman that answered the phone and asked for the gentleman's name. And he says, unfortunately, he passed away. And I said, I'm sorry to hear that. But that was his son, so he took over the operation. So what we did, Lisa and I, we says, well, let's jump in a car and go pay a visit. So I did ask him, can I come and see the white bison, the buffalo? He says, yeah, come out, but they're not for sale. That's fine. We just want to come and see them. Jumped in the vehicle and we head up to Sylvan Lake, and that's where the ranch was. The gentleman was standing in his yard. He got off, and that was the first question he asked. You know anybody from Native people in Manitoba? I says, well, yeah, I guess there's a few that I know. And he was talking about a gentleman, smart, brilliant, hard worker, athletic, and so forth. And I thought, interesting. So I asked him, well, who are you talking about? What's the name? He says, Kelly Bunn. So I gave him a smirk, and I said, see the lady in the car? He says, yeah. Well, that's his daughter. So he got all excited, ran around the car and giving Lisa's hugs and saying, I know your dad. Telling her stories about her dad and so forth. And we decided, well, I want to see the buffalo. So the first one I seen was Tomahawk. He was just 2 years old at the time. Nice looking animal. And then again, he did mention that they weren't for sale. So as we got talking, you know, the breeds and what the bloodline was, and I asked him a question. He says, what is the significance of you having bison, and particularly a white buffalo? He says, I don't have an answer for it. So he threw the same question back at me. And what I told him, the significance for First Nation people in North America with the bison or the buffalo was their survival. They provide them roof over their heads, the food, the medicines, and so forth. And he had a lot of questions as we ended there, and I did tell him that I did ask him, in the event that you want to sell these animals or the bison, we'd be interested. So he says, okay, no problem. And we went on our merry way, and a day or so he gave me a call. Says him and his wife talked about it, and he was really intrigued of the question I gave him, and he understood why we wanted to look at the white bison, why we wanted them. So it took him a few days, and he decided, okay, well, we will consider selling them to you. So for myself and Lisa, I felt that was, I don't know, it was given as a gift.
We offered the opportunity to others. The interest wasn't there. With what it is, asked Dogie if we could purchase them for ourselves. We applied for a loan. I didn't know we were applying for a loan, but we applied for a loan. And the next morning he came up, put his hand out. He said, congratulations, you're the new owner of White Buffalo.
There was a connection. We didn't know, of all the millions of people, who we got the buffalo from.